Okay, so today I thought it would be interesting to go over this photo. A lot of people do speed edits and stuff. I see it on YouTube a lot, and I figured it would be a good idea to do my own video and show you how I edited this. It's a photo I took during the summer of my friend Jacob. Before I even begin to show you how I edited it, I'd like to just thank him for falling into this tub 20 or 30 times for me, and for actually providing the tub as well. It's his tub, so that was really nice of him to let me drag it out of his house and shooting it all day. So thank you, Jacob. So this is the final edit, and this is the before. This is no editing at all, literally straight out of camera. It's a raw file. And so yeah, let's start. So first, as the title suggests, this is the raw edited. So this is literally just all in camera raw. I've done a lot of fill light to bring out details and stuff, and I think I bumped the clarity up a bit for some reason. Okay, there. So yeah, this isn't obviously the default. These are all the things I've applied. So you can see I cranked up the fill light, I brightened it a lot, I boosted the contrast. I also do a lot of adjustment brushing. So if I can show pins. Oh, never mind, I only did one. All right, well, either way, I do that a lot in other photos. It's a really handy way. Instead of doing a lot of work in Photoshop, sometimes you can get like 80% done in Camera Raw. So yeah, we'll go back to Photoshop because, yeah, I'm just gonna close this. And all right, so first thing I did was I got rid of this little, the end of the tub, basically where the water comes out. It was really distracting, and even like when we were putting it together, I knew I wasn't gonna keep it there, obviously. But anyway, so I got rid of that. This is, I was going to merge in a different face. I masked it in, and it actually looks pretty good, but I decided against it, so I kept the original. This is a high pass filter, which is just another way of sharpening. You can use the sharpen filters and stuff all here, but I personally like using a high pass, which is basically just a flattened version of all your layers, and just like, you can just do it with this basically, because it doesn't matter what the colors, because it ends up looking, I'll show you what it looks like. Well, that's masked, so I'll turn off the layer mask. That's what it ends up looking like. And just use at a low opacity, set the soft light. See, I masked in his lips, his eyes, a little bit of the waves, certain spots, not a lot. Set the soft light and turn it down. I'm not sure what the opacity was at, so I'm gonna just Control-Alt-Z a few times to go back, and it's not working, of course. So I'm gonna have to step backward. And one more time. I think that should be good. Yeah, 20%, okay. So, and this, I was going to add in more waves to fill in the empty space up here, but it looks cool, but it also looks really fake, so I decided against it. So now we're gonna go into the majority of the in Photoshop edit. So first, I did a selective color layer. It's red. I used it to brighten up his ears, if I remember. Yeah, or darken, I should say. It's darkening his skin a little bit. Only the reds are affected. That's what selective color does, basically. So I bumped up the blacks, which is essentially brightening. And I have used selective colors. Selective colors and curves are probably my most used things in Photoshop. My favorite adjustment layers, I should say. Not favorite things. Here I'm brightening them instead. Not a big change, but I don't know. I work in baby steps, basically. Like, one layer will do very little, and that's why I have so many layers. I know some people edit in 3 or 4 steps, but I can't work like that. For some reason, I have to do very little by little. So this is another selective color layer, and I noticed that the water had like a greenish tint to it, so I went to the greens, and I boosted the blacks, made it a bit brighter, and I added cyan to it, which did that apparently. Looks better, I believe. And another selective color layer, and this time I masked in, looks like around his face. So it's, yeah. So one thing I do a lot in photos is basically just this basically lightens only the lighter part of his skin. So if right now it's at a low opacity, but if I bump it up, you could see that his skin here is not affected, whereas the parts that have bits of highlight detail, well, not detail, but bits that are brighter basically, get affected, and it gives kind of a cool look that You could easily get some other way, but this way requires no masking, and it's like a very cheap and simple dodging effect. And whereas you'd have to go in and paint it all in yourself, and this is just a quick and dirty way. It doesn't work all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this is one occasion where I think it subtly works. So yeah, you zoom back out. Also, I work on black on Photoshop. I don't know, just hit your F key to toggle between black and white or gray. Nope, can't get to gray. I remember there being gray, but whatever. Also, before I continue, I should mention that I work on a I work on a PC, sorry. If you are watching this on a Mac, I suggest brightening your screen a little bit, because Macs tend to make things darker and contrastier. And I'm working on a really terrible PC monitor that isn't calibrated, so I hope the colors don't look all funky in here. So I should really get on that. That's probably what I'm gonna do very soon. This is dodge and burn layers. I did very little here, just a little bit on his face, I believe. And if you want to do that, basically, some people dodge and burn right on the actual photo or they use curves, but I personally like using 50% gray layers. And to do that, you just make a new layer down here. Delete that one. And you go to edit, fill, and 50% gray. Odds are black or white will be there by default, but just hit 50% gray. That'll come up, and so you can see a bit of my, that was for my burning. I just burnt the edges of something apparently, so very little. Set the soft light and burn with the burn tool or dodge with the dodge tool, and it basically brightens or darkens. And that looks terrible, but you get the point. I'm gonna delete that. And I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible because this is my third time actually making the video. And the first two times have been around 15 and 10 minutes, so I'm just going to quickly run through it. So this is the curves layer, it's a bit of darkening going on. No masking, just general darkening. Select the color, W for white. Yeah, so this is just brightening up the tub and the water in his face again a little bit, adding a bit of brightness. Zoom back out. Select the color G for greens. So I did. So yeah, I think it's in the water that there's an effect going on. Very subtle. I'm not quite sure. Can't see that 100% to be honest. At the time I thought it was useful, so I put it there. This actually is fixing more of that than anything. There was somewhat of a green, still a green tint. I know it took a bit out of it before, but so I took it out by literally going into the hue and saturation and changing it and making the water more purple. If I would bring it up all the way, you could really see the effect, but I think it was at 38 or 32. 38, yeah, I was right. So I just masked in around the water to get even more of a neutral tone. Select a color, R for red. So this is just on his lips, I believe. Yeah, it looks like it just saturated it a little bit more and brightened it a little bit. Next is a gradient map, just adding contrast. It's a black and white layer set to hard light. I usually use soft light at low opacity, but this is hard light at really low opacity. Hard light is the exact same thing as soft light except to a higher degree, as the title would suggest. Soft light is not as extreme, hard light is much harder. So like 100% it looks like stupid, but at a low opacity, it just adds general contrast, makes the darks darker and the whites whiter. Another curves layer, adding more contrast. Was that a 12? Wow, this looks really over contrasty right now. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna go into exposure. And this basically is just brightening up the darks. This you can do this in curves, but I like using exposure. I don't know. You just change the offset here. You drag it up, and drag it down. That makes it the blacks darker. It also adds a kind of weird effect. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that, but I'm a big fan of using it the other way, and I know a lot of other people do as well. Where are we? Sorry, color balance. Wait, exposure. Definitely something. I don't know. I'm getting lost. I'm sorry. Color balance. Curves layer. So I just added blue here. And yeah, you can just see that it's adding a bit of blue everywhere. It's at a very low opacity. And the curves layer. What's it doing? Just general darkening. A low opacity. Another curves layer. More darkening. Masked in certain spots. You can see the edges are masked a bit. Tub here. Around there. And another curves. More darkening. More masking as well at half opacity at 50%. Selective color is a neutral. I use neutral sometimes because it gives kind of a cool effect. You can really get like cool colors, but you could also get really weird colors. Like if you overdo it, everything looks kind of weird. And yeah, I'm just gonna undo that. So color balance, adding a bit of blue overall, I think. Yeah, pretty much. So just adding some blue. It's a subtle effect again, but it's visible. And let's go to textures. I'm not sure why. Oh yeah, because there's a texture here. That would make sense. What I do sometimes is I'll literally blur a texture and set and change the blend mode. For example, use color mode, color burn. I can't read. To make a vignette to burn out the edges here. You can see that it's masked in. The white parts are where the effect is active, basically. Vibrance, I believe, just desaturating the edges a bit, because I shot this from bird's eye view on top of this roof. Just desaturating the greens a little bit over there. Curves. Just a bit of brightening. Looks like, yeah, just brightening. Let's close that. Curves. Another brightening, basically, just affecting the lights, and I just brightened up around the tub. Vibrance. I do this sometimes. Vibrance is basically a more flattering version of saturation. It makes skin tones look more naturally vibrant instead of like a weird orange. If you use saturation, just crank it up. Yeah, I mess with that sometimes. Selective colors is probably on the blues because it looks like, yep. So I just made the blues darker. Human saturation, probably desaturating. Yep, nope. Blues, yes. So in blue, just desaturate all the blues a little bit, 100%, but it's only -15. Vibrance, I remember this actually. I'm just desaturating this little hint of light on his neck because we shot this at sundown and the light was hitting there. And yeah, that's basically it. Did a little bit more dodging and burning, very little going on there. Nothing crazy. And I did clean up just to clean up the little annoying spots of light hitting the grass there, up here and there, as you can see if you look. And edited Jacob's face a little bit. His complexion is pretty good, but I just took out a few little pimples, nothing crazy. And that's it, well, except for this color balance layer, where I'm basically adding more blue. Yeah, adding more blue. And yeah, that's it. If I was editing this today, I would have definitely made it a bit brighter and less contrasty. I would have done that. Like I said, if you're doing this on a Mac, it's going to look much more contrasty than on my screen, but I definitely prefer it like this than without that, because the darks are a bit too dark, and I'm not a big fan of pure blacks. Although if I look at my histogram, there are no actual pure blacks, so that's good. I'm true to myself somewhat. Anyway, this video has gone on long enough. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do like photography and you would like to see some of my work, I have links to my Facebook and Flickr page in the description. And I plan on doing more videos like this in the future, and behind the scenes videos and everything like that. So yeah, check those out, and I hope you enjoyed. Take some sweet photos and take it easy.